postpartum, it just sucks.
And it's stressful, really lonely. You don't talk to a human all day long, and you just have this little thing that you're trying to keep alive.
It's amazing what our body can do, absolutely, but let's not lose sight of the fact that you've just gone through a tremendous event.
People don't realize getting yourself into a position to be able to get pregnant is super important. Your health is going to matter a lot for your children.
We always give the timeline. You should be preparing to even start conceiving for 9 to 12 months. Not, okay, I'm going to start preparing and we're starting to try at the same time.
First trimester, I remember telling Becca,
freaking out.
Oh my God, I'm gaining so much weight so fast. How do I make this stop? How do I slow it down? I had a lot of reminding myself that he's God's doing what he needs to do to create this little healthy human.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness coaching company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it's the hot flashes, the night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or waking around the middle that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working and you are just moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today I have two of my best friends, Liz and Becca, on the podcast. They are also functional nutritionists. They are incredible. And we talked all about pregnancy, preparing for pregnancy. We talked about postpartum. We talked about our experience with pregnancy and postpartum, mistakes that people make postpartum, losing weight postpartum, the difference between losing weight after baby number 1 versus baby number 2, exercise, and just the demands of being a mom and working or being a stay-at-home mom. We discussed so much stuff, shared so much about our personal experiences. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as we enjoyed recording it. I'm definitely going to have them on for a part 2. Enjoy. So I have my wonderful friends, Becca and Liz, here on the podcast. We met through Rachel Shear. She's another nutrition coach and she's incredible and she's mentored all of us and connected us. And it was just we've been best friends from the moment we've kind of met, and we finally met in person this year and it was amazing. So Becca and Liz, I will let you kind of just introduce yourselves briefly and then we'll talk all things pregnancy, hormones, motherhood, wherever the wind blows us, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kick it off. The definition of my people is Stephanie.
Yeah.
I feel when you're you meet your people, that's she is another version of Liz. And I find it really hard to find people that are like us. And when we met Stephanie, it was found one, keep her. And I remember we met her for the very first time in Dallas. And that night she came back to our hotel room and we ate dinner on our beds and talked for multiple hours. So glad God put you in our lives. But Liz and I are co-owners of Fit Mom, which is a functional health practice in the States. And we work with very complex cases of chronic dysfunction in women that are not being resolved on other routes, and maybe people have worked with other doctors or practitioners and seem to find themselves at our doorstep. And both of us have been on our own journey of our unsolvable problems, right? And for me, mine was very hormone-based, and pregnancy postpartum was a big part of it. I was basically a over-exerciser, under-eater to its core. Competed in CrossFit in my 20s before kids, when my body could quote unquote handle it. I was very symptomatic at the time. I was not handling it, but I looked great. So, you have abs. Why do you care if you're bloated and constipated and have no energy? So yeah, I got pregnant, with my first through IVF because shocker, I didn't have a period at 9% body fat. And tried to get back into exercise afterwards. Basically, it worked until it didn't. The calorie deficit worked for a few months, and then inflammation was nah, this isn't great. We're going to pack on 15 pounds in a month. You're going to get, horrible symptoms. And that's where like doctors, thyroid looked fine, right? All the blood work looked fine, but I felt awful. And I was trying to lie to myself that like, it's okay that you gained 15 pounds. Maybe this is just where healthy is for you, right? And it wasn't. And so I went down my own route of functional work and getting answers for myself and understanding that your health and your body composition and all of those are not just calories in, calories out. It's so much more than that. And so I'm the hormone queen on social media now. I talk a lot about weight loss resistance and metabolism, and specifically perimenopause when we see a lot of this kind of go completely haywire. So that's a little bit in a nutshell about me. And then Liz is the poop queen.
Yeah. So I'm the poop queen on Instagram, but my journey started when I was a young girl. I was diagnosed with children's rheumatoid arthritis, put on 2 very strong steroids, prednisone and methotrexate, blew up like crazy. I actually found some pictures of myself not too long ago, and I forgot like how chubby I was. Becca and I sometimes send the pictures to each other like, look at this, can you believe, it's a tale old time, right? Like everyone in functional medicine, you go and you have your experience where doctors are like, take birth control, it's calories in, calories out issue. And, for me, I remember when I was 16, I went to the OBGYN because I was having horrible periods, like debilitating, very, very heavy. I would lay on the floor with heating pads, legs up, right? Midol, all the things, and horrible acne. I would do that proactive solution, which is it's very harsh, right? It's terrible for you. But I was desperate, right? And the thing that really frustrates me, and this will go all the way through my second diagnosis of Hashimoto's eventually in my early 20s, is that no one ever talked about diet, stress, lifestyle. Like it was just a blanket statement of you need to track calories and, exercise more. And I'm like, but I'm going to the gym, I'm dancing, and high school, I would be very, very active. And I would try the whole 1,200 calorie thing on my MyFitnessPal. I tried Weight Watchers. I did succeed with Weight Watchers. I lost 40 pounds, but I gained 50 back. And again, like Becca, right? You are symptomatic, but you're thinking like, well, this is working, or the weight's coming off or whatever. And I was severely constipated. So that's why I'm the poop queen, very passionate about gut health. When I got my diagnosis of Hashimoto's, it was from a functional doctor because no one else ran, anything besides TSH, T4. And that's where we saw the antibodies. We did the gut testing. I was a disaster. I mean, parasites, candida, H. pylori, all kinds of things going on. And all of that drives inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. So I was actually low blood sugar for a period of time when I was working with Travis Zipper, rest in peace, an old mentor of ours. I remember calling him and saying like, I'm having these feelings of anxiety now. I don't know what's going on. I've never felt this before. And lo and behold, it was low blood sugar. And then that flipped to high blood sugar. So again, taking my own journey a step further, because when we do the functional health protocols, you can definitely get to a place and you're like, I feel really good, right? I'm now symptom free, but I was hanging on to a lot of inflammation. So at that point, Becca had gone to a conference and met Vince Pitstick, another mentor of ours, who was fantastic. And when I called him, I was like, dude, I've done 75 hard twice. I'm now doing phase 1 and I'm just struggling. Nothing is changing. And so going through that process, I learned a lot about too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And again, we're going to break the calories in, calories out myth, especially for women. And so I'm excited because as we think about preparing our bodies for pregnancy and coming through postpartum, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a crazy roller coaster ride. I'm 4 months postpartum right now. Becca and I both have 2 children, and it's really hard. So I would just say as we go into this in the conversation we're going to have today, like, I just want you to know, like, our hearts are with you. If you are somebody who is like, man, I struggle so much, and going through pregnancy there's no control over most things, right? And it's hard because your body is changing in ways that you can control some things, but your body's going to do what it needs to do essentially. And that can be very mentally and emotionally draining on the person. And then you have these new little people who are so energy demanding of your time. And so it's just, it's a shit show. That's maybe how we describe it. I don't know. Every day
is a shit show.
No, and I think it's also, people are like, oh, it's going to be so easy to get pregnant. It's going to be so easy to get pregnant. And then you have people who struggle so much. And like, when I had gotten my first Dutch test, I was terrified that we were not going to be able to have kids because, like, my like history of trauma and stress, and like my progesterone was in the postmenopausal range and my estrogen was postmenopausal and my androgens were like, it was a disaster. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this even going to be able to happen? And like, obviously, yes, because I'm almost 9 months postpartum. So yay. But I think people don't realize getting yourself into a position to be able to get pregnant is super important. Your health is going to matter a lot for like your children, right? Like their health also, which is a big thing. And then also how quote unquote easy pregnancy is going to be for you, or, you know, how quick you'll quote unquote bounce back. There's so many things that people just don't realize. And they're like, oh, I've lost weight before, it'll be fine. Or they lose weight after their first baby really easily. And then after second baby, it's really, really, really hard. So let's dive in a little bit about like, you know, preparing your body for pregnancy, and like the best outcome afterwards is like obviously healthy baby, healthy delivery, everything goes well, but then your health afterwards. Like how can we like be proactive? Because I don't think people think about that aspect of things all that much.
Yeah. So when you think about pregnancy and the development of a little human inside of you, you bring it back to a cellular level. Like the cells have to be healthy, AKA we have to have healthy blood sugars, because if you do not have healthy blood sugar levels, we know those cells are probably not open to receiving glucose, and in turn, they're not open to receiving other nutrients. And so we talk a ton about how everything is metabolic and at its very core. And so if you struggle with massive mood or hunger swings during the day or energy swings during the day, like that's a telltale sign that something is not optimized metabolically. And so we look a lot of times to the metabolism because many, many people may have toxins at play, they may have mold at play, they may have gut infections at play, and those just fuel metabolic issues. Like the people that come into our practice are eating healthy and exercising. Like they're doing those things and they're still struggling with tons and tons of symptoms and health issues. And so it sometimes goes beyond that. And I think for a lot of people that are struggling to conceive, that is where I would first look, is, you know, blood sugar health, metabolic function, energy throughout the day, sleep quality, those foundational pieces. And if you're doing those things, then we typically want to look deeper. Like we have a fertility expert on staff. It sometimes does take, let's look at genetics. Let's look at, you know, mold and mycotoxin potential. Let's look at toxin potential, because those things can really hinder the cell function and in turn hinder the development of healthy embryos, healthy eggs, male and female side, right? We're not just talking female, because the male is half the equation, and we cannot ignore that. So I would say from a conception standpoint, we always give the timeline. You should be preparing to even start conceiving for 9 to 12 months. You should be preparing your body to start trying, not, okay, I'm going to start preparing and we're starting to try at the same time. No, like you should take a 9 to 12 month time frame to prepare your body to be in the best possible situation. Get labs done. Look at your diet and your exercise and your stress. Look at your sleep. Look at all of those pieces, hydration, right? Because those are what is going to make it a better scenario. Don't just like, hey, IVF doctor, you know, we tried for a couple months, it's not working. You're going down a whole other rabbit hole. I didn't know any better at that time. I did IVF. Looking back now on it, I wish I wouldn't have. It is really hard on the body. The hormone levels that get pumped into you, the things that you have to do, like emotional toll too, if we, you know, on a totally other level. You feel like you're the problem. You feel like something's wrong with me. At the end of the day, I didn't have a period. I needed to put on some body fat, honestly, and I probably would have been totally fine. But we don't think in those realms, right? It's like, oh, I can't, like we tried for 3 months, nothing happened. Look deeper. I would say in the conception phase, that is my biggest piece to tell people is it's typically a cellular and metabolic issue. And that can stem from a lot of areas, but if you can't conceive, it's look deeper.
Yeah. And I would just add to that we pass on our microbiome to generations. And especially for moms who have girls, they're a lot more susceptible to our genes. So I think about this, and we can probably look at any of our friends and be like, the daughter mimics the mom in a lot of ways. I know I mimic my mom in a lot of ways. And so I think that's really important. So it's not just about like this moment right now. This is also impacting future generations, and it's going to impact, your child in terms of, when you are passing on, whether it's mold, mycotoxins, parasites, whatever, gut infections it might be, that's going to impact the development of the child and their immune system as well, especially in the first 12 months of life. There's also been a lot of research around what they're seeing come through the placenta. So I know many people are like, yeah, but the body is going to protect you from those things. No, they have done research now, and they're seeing all of these toxins and infections, heavy metals and whatnot in the placenta. So that we know has been passed to the child. And when we think about, eczema and allergies and just all of the rates that are rising with neurological, disorders, we don't even have to talk about vaccines at all here. We just need to talk about the fact that we need to clean up the mother's microbiome. And I would do that for, a good 6 months. But I agree with Becca in terms of preparing your body and changing your environment, thinking about water that you're consuming, your air quality, things that you're putting on your skin and your hair, and just things that you're exposed to every single day, day in and day out. And getting that diet right is really important. But absolutely test your gut microbiome, test your hormones so that you can support. I think the most heartbreaking thing is that there's so many miscarriages that are preventable if we're able to get eyes on hormones and say, hey, she isn't a strong progesterone producer because of stress and all these other things, or maybe under eating and not having the nourishment that you need to build strong hormones going into pregnancy. Because I haven't walked that path, but I have friends that have, and it's very, very heartbreaking. And so many times I've seen it where if they would have tested, right, they had short periods, like there were signs ahead of time of low progesterone. And I even have a very, very close friend of mine who is a nurse practitioner that we've talked a lot about this because she had multiple miscarriages, and it was clear if they would have done her blood work, it was very, very clear from her symptoms that she was low progesterone. She should have been supported so that she had it once she found, at home here in the United States. I'm not sure how it is there, but they basically make you wait 3-6 weeks, after you've had a at-home positive pregnancy test to come in, and a lot can happen in that time frame, but a lot can also be done proactively. So I just wanted to add that in there because it is definitely the preparation phase, but it's also having the information and the data to say, hey, I'm doing everything that I can in my power, and when the time comes that I get this positive, conception, now I know I need to do X, Y, or Z based upon that information. So I think that's really important. And I wish conventional medicine talked a lot about that, because when we look at the rates of infertility and with miscarriage and with the male, fertility issues, a lot of it comes down to there's so many underlying infections in the body that are missed, or toxins that are being sequestered. And then we're not seeing that the body, you have to remember that this is something that your body has to feel safe, right? To and it's not going to do that if we're not in a pretty good state. That said, there are many people who are very unhealthy that, we know get pregnant all the time, but it seems just fine. But think about the future generations, I think, is really important too.
Well, and I think too, like Becca, you said, even like you have to have the foundationals, and people are like, oh, well, I am doing all the things. And it's like, but understanding what an appropriate level of exercise is, the right kind of exercise. Are you actually eating whole foods? As people are like, I hit my calories, I hit my macros. And it's like, okay, but you have to understand the whole inflammation. Is this affecting this? Like, is it too little? Is it too much? Like, I don't think people get enough education around it, or like they're just eating, the keto bars, the protein powders, the protein Pop-Tarts, the protein cookies, because I need protein, right? And so I think that's where a lot of people feel like they're doing everything right. And sometimes it's like, you just need someone to objectively look, because we're all going to be biased and be like, I'm doing great. I'm doing all the right things, right? And sometimes I think a lot of people almost like assume they're doing things right because it's better than what their friends might be doing, but that's really not actually all the way true, if that kind of makes sense, right? So I want to touch on exercise a bit. So like, because I think muscle mass in pregnancy is like massive to like making sure that you have a good healthy pregnancy and blood sugars and less back pain and being able to have a good labor and delivery and all those things. So how did you guys prepare your bodies for that? Was there a difference between your two kids? Because I don't like to share my pregnancy story that much because it was like pretty good. Like I didn't have a ton of pain until like the last month. Delivery was super like smooth for me. But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I had like a significant amount of muscle mass to like help support that. So was there differences between like your first versus your second and like things that you guys noticed?
Yeah, I just knew a lot more with my second than I did with my first. So I was smarter. When I had Carson, my first, one thing also I want to let a lot of women know, when you start a pregnancy leaner, you tend to put on a little bit more weight because your body needs it, honestly. It's safer for it to hold a little bit more body fat. So I started Taylor's pregnancy, my second one, a little bit with more body fat, obviously. And I didn't gain as much weight. I kind of had like a set point with both of them that I got to. So a lot of women worry because like they start out a little bit leaner and they're like, I've gained this much weight. And it's like, well, your body probably needed it. As long as you're eating nutrient dense foods and you're eating healthy, like it's obviously doing what it needs to do. So,
She's also talking about me, by the way, too, here. Literally perfect scenario to talk about that.
Yes.
Because I started with Marcus, 155-ish, and I was 140 when I got pregnant with Ethan, and I came home from the hospital after both births at the same weight. But in the first trimester, I remember telling Becca, like,
freaking out.
Oh my God, I'm gaining so much weight so fast. How do I make this stop? How do I slow it down? And I remember Vince, one of our mentors, saying like, Liz, it'll level out as long as you are at like 1 pound per week. I think that's a healthy weight because I was reverse dieting out of some of the protocols I was doing, but I was leaner. I was the leanest that I had ever been. And so he's like, it's okay. Like, in Becca, it's okay. And so I wanted to just bring that in because we talk about set points. And I think it's one thing for people to say it, but then when you experience it yourself, you know what I mean? That's what I was saying. It was very mentally challenging for me. I just felt like somebody was blowing me up like a balloon. So just if that's you or you're getting ready to prepare for your second, just know that, and again, I had a lot of like reminding myself a piece like God's doing what he needs to do to create this little healthy human. So sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but
you're fine. I mean, so with Carson, I was still managing a CrossFit gym. I was coaching on my feet all day. I was working out, doing CrossFit workouts basically until 36 weeks. And at that point I had to modify quite a bit because I was like, I couldn't do pull-ups. I couldn't hang from a pull-up bar at that time, nor should I. And I modified a lot trying to be intelligent, but like looking back on it, it was probably way too much stress on my system. Something to understand is that you can pull from babies' adrenals. The adrenals, I believe, are one of the only organs that's fully formed in a baby when they're born, and you can basically deplete the baby's adrenals by being chronically stressed during your pregnancy. So I look at Carson, and Carson had a lot more skin issues, gut issues, immune issues than my daughter Taylor does. And I think some of that is the VAXs too and that whole process. But I think that a lot of it was I was overtraining with Carson because it's just what I knew. And then with Taylor, I listened to my body a lot more. I was trying to do a lot more gentle, like more stretching and yoga type stuff with Taylor towards the end of it and sooner. I stopped training at like 35 weeks with Taylor, and I was just doing a lot of walking, mobility, just to pull back stress on my system. But being active in both pregnancies, and once you have a toddler and you're pregnant, like you have no choice but to be active. But it makes your delivery and postpartum, in my opinion, much, much easier. Like I talk to a lot of nurses and they're like, oh my gosh, most of the women that come in here can't even lift their leg up to get into a bathtub by the time they're 40 weeks pregnant. And I was like still doing squats and all of that because I gave my body something it should be used to, right? And the one thing that I always let women know is like, okay, if you get pregnant and you've never been exercising and now you want to be healthy, awesome, do it. But it is not the time to perform and peak your performance. Pregnancy is not the time to hit PRs and take on huge intensive, like women that run marathons when they're pregnant. I don't know. I have a certain feeling about it. Like, sure, maybe you're a marathoner and that's a cool accomplishment, but like, is it best for your body during pregnancy and for the baby's development? Probably not. And so I look at pregnancy as it is a time to keep my health and maintain my health, but it is mostly a time to help this baby develop as best as they can. It is not a time for me to feel good about my body because I'm not gaining a lot of weight and I'm still lifting as heavy as I always did. That's not the purpose of pregnancy. And so it's kind of, you got to take a little bit of an ego check during pregnancy if you're used to training really hard, because you have to really take into account the true health of the baby and the health of you.
Yeah.
So.
I trained all throughout my pregnancies with Marcus. So I delivered at 37 weeks. I was induced with him and I stopped at 36 weeks. And we were doing more strength and conditioning. My husband and I owned a gym at that point in time. And I had some higher intensity stuff in there, but, I modified a lot of things and then eventually took a step back. A lot of things that I really focused on in both pregnancies were more like stability and balance and really trying to support the core, because I knew so I had an emergency C-section with Marcus, and I knew going in with Ethan, unless I went naturally, I would deliver at 39 weeks with another C-section. And with Ethan, though, I was not at all going crazy. So the first 2 trimesters, I kept everything like 80-90%, lots of walking, stretching, mobility. And then honestly, the 3rd trimester, I just really wasn't comfortable in things like I had a lot of hip pain and I didn't experience that with Marcus. He was very small. He was born intrauterine growth restriction, IUGR, and so he was only 3 pounds, 9 ounces, and Ethan was 8'3". So for me, it was like double the size. So I was pretty uncomfortable. But again, there it was still thinking anything was better than nothing. So I would still lift, but it might have been like 50-60%. I wasn't there for strength gains. I was there for just mental, and emotional exercise at the same time as I was just, you want to maintain as much as you can. And then a lot of the mobility. So, I wasn't doing natural birth, but I still knew the importance of that core strength. And actually when my doctor was stitching me back up, she goes, "You have great abs." I was like, "Really? I can't feel them or see them, but I'm glad that you said that." And so it made the C-section recovery much easier. I think too, when you think about like they cut through 7 layers of, your organs and your skin and all this kind of stuff. I had a little bit harder time this time, but I think it was because also just like the bleeding and the cytokines and the inflammation. And so I think if you are somebody who has a history of complications, right? Or there's complications in the family, or just, you're struggling going through pregnancy, just remember that exercise is still a stressor. It's a very good thing. And you want to have that muscle mass and you want to build the stability and balance, but you can definitely overdo it. And so I would agree with Becca on, you got to listen to your body, and you got to also know when to scale back and kind of be at the mercy of today is not the day. Because your body is pretty smart. It needs to keep that baby alive. And so this too, I think where people make the mistake is that they push the line too far, thinking they're doing something good for themselves, but then they end up with injuries and, doing more harm.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like postpartum now, because like everyone's first thought postpartum is like, I want to lose weight. Got to lose weight, right? That's what everybody wants to like focus on postpartum. And like the recovery part is very important. It takes time for your hormones to come back. Your abs are going to take some time to it takes a while. Everything's squished up and moved around. It takes time for things to go back to where it needs to be. And like, what does the postpartum period really like? How did you guys do that with your kids versus like now that you know so much more and stuff like that? Like, how did things differ? What did you focus on? Because a lot of people don't do postpartum, quote unquote, well, in our opinion, right? That first time around, which makes pregnancy and recovering postpartum the second time a lot harder, because people lose weight, in my opinion, way too quickly a lot of the time the first time, because that's what they're really focusing on. Like they don't want to have that weight anymore. They want it gone, right? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I have a couple of things to say on this, and I'm also going to share just a little bit of a client story too, because I think this is really important to understand. So number one, I agree with Becca. Postpartum, it just fucking sucks. Like, let's just be honest, right?
Like sweaty all the time. And
leaking from places that you never thought you would leak from. Yeah. You just feel gross. And like, if you're breastfeeding or able to do that, I tried with both of mine and I was more successful in the first than with the second. But yeah, you just kind of feel like a cow, and it's amazing what our body can do. Absolutely. But let's not lose sight of the fact that you've just gone through a tremendous event, whether or not it's natural birth or C-section. I believe somebody said it's the equivalent of running 40 marathons when you go through pregnancy. So number one is that you need a lot of nourishment, and you really want to support your gut microbiome coming out of it. And that was a big thing I did this time versus the first, because I didn't realize this, but your gut microbiome is very inflamed. You're in a very inflammatory state, right? It's just this crazy event that you've given birth to a human. So I think I would say, get good things on hand. Like our team blessed me with some really good nourishing meals from Mama Meals. I also prepped in advance some bone broth. I chose to do homemade bone broth, and I sipped that like tea every day. And I just tried to get as many vitamins and minerals and amino acids and nourishment in, electrolytes especially. It's like at the hospital with my little buoy droppers, right? My element tea and stuff like that. But you really want to think about this fourth trimester as your replenishment phase. And yes, weight loss, and my weight loss, with Marcus, I bounced back pretty quick. This one, I'm 4 months and I've, dropped like 9 pounds. I still have, about 10 that I'd like to go to get back to where I was. But again, for 4 months, like that's good.
Yeah.
That's not so necessarily my main focus. My main focus was inflammation, because I know I'm very prone to inflammation. And so even when I was doing some protocols recently around fasting, I was still eating a good amount in those fasting windows. So I wasn't, in a crazy calorie deficit. And I think a lot of this comes down to lack of preparation. And then also you're just sleep deprived, and, you're just grabbing things or forgetting to eat. And so if you are preparing for postpartum, utilize your community. I accepted all the meals. People sent meals, and our school was like, hey, what can we do for you? My mother-in-law offered, and I just accepted it all. And I didn't do that the first time. I think the first time you're like, yeah, I got this. It's cool, whatever. Because what we found when we were going through our first experience with Marcus, he was in the NICU, we were then just eating on the go a lot. And so that wasn't really nourishing food, right? It was a lot of inflammatory food. Even though you could choose Chipotle or maybe Panera and salads and stuff like that, you're still getting exposure to like a lot of ingredients that maybe you wouldn't use at home. So I think that is key in terms of just like preparation, and just remembering that your microbiome is really not in a place to have a lot of shitty food. We want to give it a lot of like more calming, nourishing foods, especially for the first couple of weeks. So that would be my first thought when it comes to postpartum.
Yeah. I mean, weight loss for me has never been easy. It's always taken a lot of work. I always have to be changing every possible lever, and postpartum was no exception for me. I breastfed both Taylor. I breastfed until about 6 months. She was a pain in my ass, but she just screamed at my boob all the time, which was great. So I just exclusively pumped until I ran out of milk. Carson, I breastfed until like 8 months. And so I held on to weight while I breastfed. I exercised, I ate healthy, and I still wouldn't lose weight. So it took me until after I stopped breastfeeding with both of them to start. And then I also at that time started pushing exercise more with intensity and stuff like that, because I was like, I'm no longer trying to fuel milk. And I was not like an overproducer. I made enough, but it was just enough. And so anything that I tried to do with more exercise or dieting would tank my supply. And so I had to be kind of a lot more strategic with that. With Carson, I did not wait long enough, in my opinion, to start exercising. I probably started way too soon, and I pushed way too soon. And I tried to get back into CrossFit competing, which was a horrible idea. It worked initially. At like 12 months, 15 months, I felt totally back to my pre-kid body. And then I gained weight rapidly because my body was so stressed out and inflamed, because we had the business. I had now a new child that was completely dependent on me. And now I'm trying to compete again and train super hard. So, and at that time, again, I didn't know what I know now. And with Taylor, it was a little bit better, but I had a toddler. And so like I was on my feet way more than I probably should have been. I bled a lot after Taylor for like 6 to 7 weeks. Bleeding should stop sooner than that. And it didn't, because I was probably too active. And weight gain with Taylor, or weight loss with Taylor, was really hard too. And so the biggest thing that I think people don't really account for is not only the physical stress of postpartum. Your hormone levels are all over the place, which is why you have night sweats after you have a child, and your estrogen is going up and down, and your progesterone is tanked, which is why you have postpartum depression. Like the hormone aspect is really, really heavy, but then the mental, emotional, like postpartum's lonely. My husband works. And so he also cannot effing sit at home. And so after like 3 days, he was like, I'm going back into work. And so then I was at home with a newborn that didn't talk and just lays there and doesn't sleep, and trying to also work a little bit because we own a business. And unfortunately, we don't have postpartum pay, we pay each other during postpartum. And Liz took time off. I took some time off, but like you never actually take time off. Right. And so postpartum's really lonely, and you don't talk to a human all day long, and you just have this little thing that you're trying to keep alive, and it's stressful. And so like Liz was saying, like, I don't love postpartum. It's not my favorite time. Some people really enjoy it and it's amazing for them and awesome for them. But like for me, it isn't. And I honestly, we wanted to potentially have another child, but we have 2. I lost one in the middle at 22 weeks. And so like I've been pregnant 3 times. I don't think I could be a great mom to a 3rd child. Could I love a 3rd child? Absolutely. But like, I don't think I would be happy and in turn be the best mom and wife possible with another child in the mix at this time. So we're done at 2. We have an amazing family. Both my kids are healthy. I'm very blessed with that. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And I've become more open about that because like postpartum, pregnancy wasn't horrible. I got super sick in the first trimester and I couldn't eat anything other than like pot bellies and fried foods. But beyond that, it wasn't that bad. Both of my births were vaginal and they were fine. But like the postpartum experience and then the stress of being a mom and feeling like you have to do all the things and all the things that society puts on us with social media and that we put on ourselves. I made the decision, honestly, of just like, could I love another human? Of course I could. I know my heart could continue to grow for 10 more kids, but like, would I be happy? And I can confidently say, I don't think I could be a good mom for another child at this point. So,
well, and I think that's like big for awareness because like this is actually why like I like battled myself about breastfeeding because like you read research and all the things, but like once he was born, he had a tongue tie, so it wouldn't have worked anyways, like all the way to the end of his tongue. Like he couldn't even stick his tongue out. Like it would have been a flippin' nightmare. But like for me, I knew that would build resentment and I would like not want to, like it would be really hard for me. Like even just thinking about it, it like almost makes me cry because it's like, I know that would not have been good for me. And even like I took 6 weeks off. I kept working-ish, right? But it's like when my like husband was like, hey, why don't you go work for like 3 hours uninterrupted? I've got this. I like came out and he's like, you are like a different person. You are happier, like you are like a joy. And it was like, I wanted to hold Grayson as opposed to like, I have to hold Grayson. And so like, I think being able to normalize, like you also have to do what's best for your mental health because otherwise you're not going to be the best parent for your kids. There's going to be resentments. You're going to struggle with your mental health. And like your mental health is going to impact your hormones, going to impact your choices that you make. You can negative spiral so quick when like that happens. And like for me, I didn't have any like my personal family close by. I didn't have any close friends close by. Like I had my aunt and uncle visit for like 3 days. And then I had a close friend stay with us for 4 days, which was amazing. But like that was it. Like I didn't have any friends and family close by. So it was like having that space to be able to work makes me a better parent. And so like, I think understanding what's going to work best for you postpartum, mental health wise, and what your capacity is really important. Because for me, pregnancy also didn't suck. Delivery was fine. He ended up in the NICU for a few days, but like we were good. But the postpartum part for me, very much like you, like I just couldn't, like I could not just be a stay-at-home mom because I know mental health-wise that was not for me. Whereas other people, like, they're born to be a mom. Like, you can tell it's like their whole life joy and they love it and it's great. And that's what you see. And then you feel terrible because you're like, I don't feel that way. I don't feel this like immense joy fulfillment. It's like, yeah, I love my kid, but I love my career too. And like, I think that's what my purpose is. Yes, we'll probably have more kids, but like, that's what's best for me. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that side of stuff at all.
Yeah. Can I touch on the breastfeeding thing that you brought up too?
Yeah.
Because I really tried with Marcus, I really tried with both of them. But one thing that my sister said, so we know, yes, all of the research about how amazing the colostrum is and breast milk and all of that stuff. And for both of my boys, I was able to get the first couple of weeks. So that was good. But I was an underproducer. And like I'm saying, you're pumping for 45 minutes and you're getting maybe an ounce and a half total. My sister is a nurse in Denmark, Copenhagen, and their healthcare system is very different. They send in midwives to the home, they come and they help, and it's so great. It's so different than our stupid lactation services that we have here in the United States that just tell you to put your boob like a hamburger and shove the baby on it. I was like, what? Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? So if anybody out there has had the hamburger talk.
Mine made me feel like an awful human.
Yes, they make you feel terrible. So at one point, I was triple feeding. And what I mean by that is when Marcus was strong enough after gaining some weight, I was trying to latch him. And the big thing, though, is he needed to get a good amount of milk because he was so tiny, right? And so I would latch him and then I would pump at the same time. Then I would feed him a bottle to follow up with formula because I was, of course, supplementing being such a low producer. And my sister just said to me, this is taking away those very intimate moments that you could just sit there and rock him and sing to him and hold him. And that was so freeing. Becca also was like, this is crazy. Like you're doing everything. I mean, I was eating all the things and all the lactation cookies and balls and all these supplements and whatever. Everybody has their own thing. And I still to this day get people, even with Ethan, I was producing okay. And then I was not producing hardly at all. And I was trying all the things again. And I just promised myself this time, we're not going to go through that. God shut it down. I got mastitis. And so that was clear. Like it was the worst pain of my whole life. I felt like my boobs were going to burn off my body. And so there was a lot of freedom mentally and emotionally there when I just let go of it. And I just want to say to people like, yeah, we know all this stuff. It's so important. But you know what is more important is your relationship with your baby. And if you are having, like you said, Stephanie, resentment to this process, that's not good either because the baby senses our nervous system. And I never thought about that with Marcus, but I've thought a lot about that with Ethan is like when I can be with him, I want to be with him. You know, I don't want to be sitting there stressed out. And so I just wanted to add that on because I think there's so much judgment and shame for how you do it, if you do it or not doing it either. So I think everything comes down to what is best for you and baby. They always say fed is best. I couldn't agree more. I think you got to feed your mind, your heart, your soul as a mom so that when you are with them, like you said, you get to hold him. And there's going to be, you know, thoughts on both sides. And there's going to also be emotions on both sides. Like I talked about that yesterday. They can be grief and gratitude at the same time. That's okay.
Yeah. No, and I also find like for like a lot of women too, like because here in Canada, like if you, like most businesses, right, like you're going to have like a year to 18 months mat leave. Like it's really great here that way. But entrepreneur, you don't get to do that. Like, because you're not getting paid all the things and all the rules and whatever. And when I had like posted that I was like traveling for work, and actually it was for the Dallas event where I met you guys, someone was like, why aren't you taking your kid with you? Like, why aren't you doing that? I'm like, because it's inappropriate to take like a 4-month-old to a business event. Like what? Like it was wild the amount of judgment that like people have because maybe they resent that they had to go back to work and weren't able to stay with their kids. But they have to, like, people have to realize everyone's experience is different. Their lifestyles are different. What their purpose is different. Like, you know, what their relationships are like. I'm very lucky that Taylor is like born to be a husband, like a dad. Like he is the best and he loves it so much. And he has a job where he's able to do that. And I think that's amazing. But like, that's not always everyone's circumstances. And so the whole like judgment thing in terms of like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, drives me crazy. Because it's like, healthy is what matters. Relationship with your kid is what matters. That connection. Are you actually present when you're with them? Like, you know, you also have to work to provide for them, right? So like that's another thing that people have to consider too. And then you're also adding on, so people have that judgment. Then people are judging, oh, is she losing the baby weight quick enough? Oh, she still looks really chubby. Oh, look at her legs. Look at this. Oh, she should be doing this. Like, it is wild, the like opinions and like what people think should happen. And like postpartum weight loss will take time for people. And then also making sure you're building back up the muscle that you inevitably lost during that time too, because it's a very energy consumptive process. And a lot of people lose muscle mass during pregnancy because that kid is sucking energy out of you.
I lost so much muscle mass. Like,
Yeah,
even
I
now,
did
like
too.
on the scale,
Same.
okay, cool. Like you're at 10, 12 pounds where I want to be, but it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so flat. You just feel
I definitely put on body fat too,
Yeah,
for sure, with both of my pregnancies. And the thing about being an entrepreneur too, and being on social media and like showing your life on social media, something I heard the other day from Hormozy, he was like, I try to remind people, me showing what I do is a documentary, not a sermon. Like, I am showing you how I live my life. It is not saying that you should live your life this way. And people just have to give their opinion. They have to give what they think is right. And it's just not the reality. Like, okay, great for you, Sally. That's not what makes me happy. So I'm going to do what makes me happy. And your opinion, awesome. If that makes you happy, you do you. You don't need to put that on me, because obviously you are not happy watching me. So why don't you go find someone else to follow? Like, it is, I will say, and Liz can probably attest to this, I used to be much more of a people pleaser, and I still have a way to go. I still have a way to go. But I think the COVID pandemic and a lot of what's happened in our world, on top of having to show your life to help run a business, basically, has helped me be less caring of those things. And becoming a mom, like, dude, you got to survive. Shit gets hard when you have multiple children that need you and need your attention. You have an awesome situation. My husband's gone all day. So like, he works an hour away. I get the kids ready so he can work out in the morning, because I have a little bit more of a flexible schedule. So like, I handle getting the kids ready for school. I take Taylor, he takes Carson, and then I pick them up, and I usually have them for an hour and a half until he gets home. And then he sees them for an hour and we both do bedtime. And so like, I just don't have that support in, he's supportive. He's an amazing dad. But he's just not around. And so like, I have the kids 80% of the time. And he travels for work. And so like, he's gone once or twice a month for a few days, usually during the week. And it's just, I also have then the mom guilt of like, I don't want to leave them at daycare too late, or I don't want to leave Carson at aftercare at school too late. And like, these other moms, I see their kids get off the bus at 3:30, but I'm like, I can't fucking end my work day at 3:30. Like, and then started at 9 a.m. when the bus picks him up. And so he's in aftercare and before care, and my daughter's in daycare from 8 until 5. Like, but like you said, I'm not fulfilled completely by being a mother. Does it fulfill a part of me? Of course, I love being a mom. But Liz and I joke all the time. I'm like, I could never. I just could never. And that's me. That doesn't have to be someone else. And that's not a judgment on someone else. It's just me. And if that's you too, it's okay to not feel like all your purpose is in being a mother. Maybe you have a bigger purpose of running a business or being an athlete or doing something else. And that's amazing. You found something that fulfills you. Hold on to it. Do not feel because society has some perspective that you have to be a certain way. You have to find what feels right in your gut. And that might take some finding. That might take some work, but like, I've found it. And it's running this practice.
Yeah. And I would say that, for a lot of the stay-at-home moms that I know, the beauty of that for most of them is that, they look at this as a season. They know that they're called to do it. And they also have found community within it, right? So like, we have our community of entrepreneur moms. Well, it's just basically the three of us, let's be honest.
Actually, though.
But I remember being in a women's conference, and she had, 3 children, and she's a singer and a writer. She's got a beautiful voice, but she's like, that was a season. And that's what I was called to do. I'm not called to stay home with them long-term. Like, they need to go to school. I'm not going to be homeschooling them. I need to get back to my music. And that's what she feels best with. And I really appreciated that she shared that, because it really spoke to me. If you do go into the depths of social media and you do look at all the shoulds, which I absolutely hate, you start to have all of these negative thoughts. And so I think that you have to be strong enough to say, this is what I need. And then on the next level here, I want to take it to your relationship with your spouse, because that's something that my husband and I really cherish. We just went away for our 9-year anniversary for a few days, and Ethan is 3.5 months old. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're leaving him. Listen, we needed that because so many times, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but it almost feels like you're passing in the night. It's like, you just, did I even kiss you today? Because it's like, you're doing this and especially now with 2, it's like one-on-one, and so I just think that through the whole process of postpartum, even if it's date night, like I have friends that have not gone on a date in years, and I have offered, please let me keep your kids. Like, you're going to lose your relationship with each other. You're going to look at each other. You already do. Like, I hear it from one or the other, you know what I mean? Where like, you're not having sex, you're not happy in your relationship. How does that look and transcend to your kids? Right. So I also think that that's really, really important. So working mom or managing all the things too is just like remembering that you created this little person with a very special person in your heart. You got to make time for them. You got to keep mom and dad. And so we always talk in our house is like, it's God first. It's, myself and then my husband and then our kids to follow that. Because if we don't show up for each other, these kids are not going to have the best possible upbringing that they could.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, like Taylor does most of the stuff with Gray. Like he does most of it. It's amazing. Like, cause he knows that I'm a better mom when I do get to work. And like, he's going away to a bachelor party in Phoenix for 4 days soon. And I am actually so freaking nervous. Like, I have help obviously during the day so I can work, but like, and I'm like, I'm nervous, but I'm like, I'm already telling myself this is going to be a great time to completely unplug and just spend 2 full wonderful days, like completely just focused on him, and we'll do stuff and we'll go to the park and it'll be great. But part of me is just like, oh my gosh, like I'm losing my teammate. And like, he has done this so many times without me already, but like, I am nervous. I'm like, how am I going to handle it? Like how stressed out am I going to be? And it's wild. And like, I haven't actually said this out loud. So like, here we go. Everyone gets to know, but I'm like, I'm nervous because like he's done so much, and it's like, this is your kid stuff. You should be fine. And it's like, yeah, but still like I haven't had to do it completely on my own, like literally ever. So I'm like, we're like almost 9 months in, which is like insane, but like, it's a totally true feeling, which is wild.
And I think from the entrepreneur side, the biggest thing that I have to remember is it's okay. Be present, give yourself permission. That's also like the really hard part. And I've struggled with this a lot, and we'll probably be talking with our mentor after this call about boundaries again, because it's so hard to set boundaries, whether that's like with your phone, right? Because as you know, it's not just like your phone and like text messages. It's like, yeah, your email's on your phone, and then your Instagram's on your phone, and all that's your business, right? And then you feel, and your central nervous system doesn't know the difference between your child needing you and somebody on Instagram messaging you or an email that you're getting, right? So it's like you feel the need to get back to them immediately. I think this time around with Ethan, I've tried to really tell myself, stop, like boundaries.
Just be here.
I'm not checking my practice better at 5 a.m. I used to be neurotic with that. Like I would check my messages from my client early on in the morning, and it wasn't healthy. Right now, transparently, I told Becca this earlier, I'm working through, like, I don't know how to come back 80, 90 hours a week like I was before Marcus. I feel like I'm dropping the ball, that I'm not showing up as much because I am trying to create these boundaries. So it's this gratitude that I get to still have this amazing job and career. Yeah. And then also this grief that like, I'm not doing it, I feel, as well as I was before Ethan was born, and that's not his part. And then there's also gratitude and grief on the other side that like he's went to daycare yesterday, and then, I'm missing out on things, and he's not here, and I can't see him between calls, and all the feelings. And so I just think that faith has been huge. Like I actually joined a women's group. I felt like I need more connection. I need more connection with God to help me work through some of these emotions that are new. Cause like also, and I'm sure Becca went through this too, it's like the grief of this is our last, like we're done. Yes, we made that decision, but at the same time, it's like my husband actually, when we were gone on vacation, got a little emotional just about like, this is it. Like we'll never have these like newborn, even though it's really freaking hard, right? When you're not sleeping and stuff. But yeah, I think it's so important to have the connection with God and or your higher power, whatever it is, the connection with your spouse, and then, the connection with your kids. And so sometimes that does require us doing things that we don't necessarily want to do. And for me, that's been the boundaries of like not looking at the computer, not being on my phone or opening those apps or whatever. Yeah. So it's all a work in progress. No one's perfect. Nobody can tell you what to do, and there's nothing that you should take out that word from your vocabulary. Like that is like such a horrible word.
And now that my kids are old enough to understand, well, Carson's mostly old and Taylor's still getting there. She's only 3, but Carson's 6 and he's going to be 7 this summer. So like he's old enough to understand what I do. And so I try to be honest with him. Like if I'm in my office and he comes in, I'm like, hey bud, like mom works really hard. And I do that so that you can have a good life and so that I can help people. And that's what I do is I help people. I help people feel better and I help people with, being sick and giving them vitamins and things to help them feel. And so like, I try to explain to him now what I do and why it's important to me to spend time doing that. And I think it's really important because I also obviously try to talk with them around food. Like it's so funny when Taylor brings me and Nick, my husband, like play food from the kitchen. She'll give Nick pizza and she'll bring me a salad. And she's like, Mama, I made you vegetables because you like vegetables. And she like, kids freaking pick up on those things, Yep. And so I think I've really tried to be honest with them too I do work a lot, but that's because I really find it important what I do, and get them to be on the same page as me. And so it's, I'm not the typical stay-at-home mom, and that's okay because what I do is important and I think really powerful. And I want my kids to see that, and I want them to see hard work. And I want them to see that that's important to work hard and care about what you do, and create a life that you're proud of living, So now that my kids are a little bit older and they can see that, you have to remind yourself how badass you are sometimes. And that's something that moms, I don't think, get enough of. No one's sitting there telling you like you're doing a great job when it's the middle of the night and you're up with your baby, and when you're exhausted and your husband's out of town and, you feel like you're hanging on by a thread, but you finish up your emails and you get the kids to bed and you're exhausted, but like good fucking work. Okay. And remind yourself of that because I think that that's something that I lost for a really long time. And I started really struggling and doubting myself. And honestly, every morning now I start with journaling to myself, telling myself how proud I am of me because what we do is not easy. Juggling all the things. And even if you aren't juggling a business on top of kids, like you're still doing God's work. You are doing really hard things in your day to day. And we don't have the villages anymore that take care of families. Like it's you and all that you hold is a lot, and be proud of that. And so that's something that's helped me honestly a lot and I forget sometimes and I still, beat myself up and all the things. I'm never doing enough. You'll never do enough as an entrepreneur. It's like, what did Elon Musk say? You stare off into the abyss and eat glass every day. Basically what being an entrepreneur is on top of being a mother, which is I think kind of the same thing. So like, it's hard, and be proud of all that you do, even if it feels like it's not enough a lot of days.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I know you guys have a hard stop time because you guys do have to go, but any parting thoughts and where we can find you?
I'll let Liz add her last thing.
Oh yeah, we're good for a minute or two, but I think that I wanted to add for those who are stay-at-home moms. So we kind of talked about this offline. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She homeschooled me, and I had a couple people in my messages yesterday just saying, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I feel the gratitude and the grief thing that I was talking about that you can feel at the same time, and it's okay. And she's like, I hated being a stay-at-home mom, and I see so many that lose themselves. Staying home or not, entrepreneur or not, right? So if you are a stay-at-home mom, I want to commend you because I think that's the hardest fucking job.
Oh, so hard.
I think that is harder than what we do. And I think that
do it.
Little tyrants running your day every day.
I could not. I can't.
Unless maybe you're like a millionaire and you can go to lunch and brunch and all the things all the time. But that truly, I think, is the hardest job. And women aren't given enough credit for that. So while we're talking about like the badass things that we do, I look at moms who are stay-at-home moms and I think that that's pretty fucking badass too. So
yeah, I could never do it. I could absolutely never do it. Like people who do it, I'm just like, I'm just so impressed and like blown away. Like, cause it's a different kind of resiliency. It's a different kind of resiliency and like being able to find the joy in all those things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually talking to our women's group. We were just going around the table and sharing things that we would love to kind of pray for each other for. And I said, patience, because I've gotten a little snippy with my 6-year-old sometimes because he's so much energy. And then, Ethan's like just a baby. You can't do this thing. And I'm like, one of the girls says, I learned a long time ago from my grandma not to pray for patience because then God tests your patience more, or like they just like automatically know. But I was like, yeah, and this is not even me having my kids all day long. And so, I just think that it's a whirlwind. I also want to remind people it's a season. And many people have reminded me recently, it's a season that we won't get back either. And so if we can do what we need to do to take care of ourselves, then in turn, and I'm not perfect at this, but I'm trying to be better at it, is then being present with them and enjoy and embrace those moments. I'm like, find myself staring at Ethan, obsessed with him. Like, I just don't
He's
ever
so cute.
imprint all these things into my mind because I'm like, I don't remember some things, about markets, right? I'm like,
I feel bad because Taylor hates Nick still. So like my daughter just is not like my husband, and she tolerates him, but like I feel so bad. Like he loves her so much. She's 3. Like, when is it going to end?
And then Becca's just like bombarded with her all the time. She's like, I can't get away from this tyrant.
She's the best. And I love her. Like she's my person and I'm her person. And that's what I try to remind myself of, especially at night when she won't fricking go to bed and has all the energy in the world. But yes, we will. End of the day, everyone's journey is their own. And you have to find things that bring you joy, and that doesn't have to be what people tell you it should be. So, if you want to find us, we're on social media the most, I'd say probably. I'm at the Hormone Queen. Liz is at the Poop Queen. Our private practice is fitmomlife.com. It soon will be
fitmom.co. And then we also have a podcast, The Health Revival Show. So you can find us there, but Instagram is our main channels. You're going to talk to me. You're going to talk to Becca. We love what we do. We love helping women change their lives. And, we work with some of the most complex cases. So we are in the US, but we do have clients all over the world, Canada, Mexico, Thailand, UK. It's pretty cool. Again, it's a gift that God has given us. And now we have a third person that is like us. And so
friendship that will never be broken.
Yes. So that's who we are.
Yeah, no, I am so grateful for you guys and like so grateful for Rachel like connecting us because as soon as we started chatting, I'm like, oh, it's them. These are the people I've been looking for because I always was like, I need my tribe. I can't find my people. And I'm like, they exist. They're here. So I'm very grateful for you guys. Make sure you guys go follow them. They're amazing. They're my new best friends. So love you guys so much and thank you.
Yeah. If you're in the States listening to this, we're going to share Stephanie is coming to our live event in Arlington Heights, Illinois in September.
Yes.
She'll be speaking at our event. So if you are stateside and would like to join, Stephanie will be sharing that too, I'm sure soon. But then you would get all 3 of us in one room, which is pretty cool. And Rachel too.
Yeah. No, it's a banging lineup actually. Like you guys, I'll be sharing it lots. So if you want to come hang out and see us, it's a great opportunity. Okay. Love you guys so much. Thank you for doing this.
Love you. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.